coordinates the Network of Wellbeing's community work in Totnes. There we go. Hi, Mirella.
Hi, Lou.
So Mirella,
can you hear me okay?
I can hear you okay. Can everybody else hear okay? There's a little bit of rustling, but I think we should be okay. Probably when I get off screen. So yes, Mirella coordinates the Network of Wellbeing's community work in Totnes. She has helped there and helped set up the ShareShed back in 2017. And the ShareShed is a really successful initiative that seems to have thrived under lockdown, where some of us have really struggled to keep things going. And you were also part of the funding bid for ShareShed as well. So let me pass on to Mirella to talk to you all about the ShareShed, how they've got set up, and how they've also moved to the mobile operation too.
Great, and I'll try to share my screen now, so
Okay.
I can show you some photos.
I'm just going to focus on you and reduce me.
Can you see my screen now?
Yep. Would you like me to bring the focus onto that?
Yes, please.
Can everybody see those slides? Okay.
Cool, great. Hi, everyone. Yeah, what a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Harry. It was really a lot of food for thought just in your 20-minute presentation. Really, really incredible things you're doing. Yeah, so I work at the Network of Wellbeing, which is a charity, a UK charity that happens to have its office here in Totnes, in Devon. And it's an organization working to connect and support people and organizations to work towards building well-being together in order to make communities thrive and people feel happier and to make the planet a little bit more sustainable. And one of the ways we do that is by setting up projects that can demonstrate that intention. And the ShareShed is one of them, and that's a project I coordinate, and today I'll be focusing on that. So the inspiration for set up such a project came from when I originally heard the crazy, sorry, there's a hair in my mouth, a crazy information that an electric drill is used in average in its whole lifetime up to 13 minutes. And that's really got me thinking, just, how many drills might, just where I live, in the streets where I live, how many households actually have a drill. And this idea that, the shift, that's an important one, that we don't need a drill, we need a hole in the wall every now and then. Therefore, how can we act differently so we don't waste so much money on buying stuff, use up our space to keep them stored, and obviously the resources too. In the same way that how can we be more creative and collaborate, with those around us who have got these things. And that's how I eventually went to research a little bit and found the share shop in Frome, Somerset, in the UK, went to see it, got really inspired by it, and brought the idea forward to the Network of Wellbeing. This is how we set up. We began in 2017. So this picture you can see on the left is from a garage, which, a bit like what Harry was saying from their Library of Things, is our local town council let us use this garage free of charge for the first 6 months as a kind of pilot. And all these things there, and still to the date, 95% of our items have been donated by members of the community. So it really shows you how, the abundance that days around. And this is a thing that Harry also said about it, reaching out and just putting a call out to people. The resources are around us, you know, and it requires us to ask and requires us to kind of really engage with each other in order to make the most of it. And so by the time we opened in April 2017, we had about 150 items. And we were very fortunate because the day we opened, it just happened that this amazing guy called Rob Greenfields, who is an activist, very well known mainly in the US, happened to be here in the community visiting, and he came over and made a little video of our project that day, a 1 minute long video. And again, the power of that is that once he put on his Facebook page, it went a bit viral, and we got over 1 million views, and that really helped us in a boost. It was obviously a really nice experience right at the beginning, and also it showed, because then we got contacted by so many people from all over the world because of that 1 minute video, asking about the idea, asking about, you know, how could they do something similar in their communities. It just really kind of, reinforced the opportunity that we had and still have to make things better and to be more, you know, this is the kind of project that the more the merrier, you know, it's not about competition, it's all about collaboration. And eventually we had to move from this garage because the town council needed it back. And we moved to our office, the Network of Wellbeing office, which is the next photo you can see on the right side. And that, you know, in Totnes, I don't know if you've been here, it's a very small town, 8,500 people. And basically it's one of those towns that there is a high street where everything happens. And our office is there, whereas this garage was just a little bit off, like, not much, perhaps 25 steps away of the high street. And when we moved, it was a real, you know, a real challenge for us at the time, because our office is right up in a 2-floor building. There is no front door, there's no front window, sorry. And there was no visibility. So we decided to have a stall just outside the office, so otherwise no one would know that we were there. And we learned how, you know, being in a place where people are naturally passing through is important. And at the time, our, you know, income really took off. And so that's a learning I feel that's important to be shared if you're considering to set up such an initiative, because we, you know, although we were very close to the high streets, when we were in this garage, we really noticed the difference. And just to say that the way the project works is that people come and become a member first, and the way they do so is by either filling out a form in person or online, and then so we have their personal information, and the first time they come over to us, they should bring a copy of ID so we can verify their address and all their personal information. And then they make a donation between £5 to £50. That's for a whole year of membership. And again, the reason why we say we give this sliding scale is to really try to be very inclusive for those who are on low income. And equally, you know, it's really nice when someone who find themselves in a more privileged position and feel compelled to pay more because they wanted to support the project. And that's the first step, to become a member. And once they are members, they can borrow what we have, and everything has a cost, and that refers to a week-long loan. And I feel it's important also to say the reason why we say members and not customers, as well as loans and borrows rather than hire, is because it's very minimum charge, very like a carpet cleaner, which is the most popular item, for instance, that we have. It's about 200 and something pounds. And to borrow it, it's 15 pounds a week. So, which is very different if we were a conventional for-profit business. Here, the aims of our project mainly is about supporting a more collaborative and sustainable lifestyle, helping people save money, space, and resources, help people reduce clutter, which I've said, a lot of things come from people's garages that have been there for a while, just taking up space. And we really find ourselves facilitating this bridge between needs and wants in terms of resources. For instance, we have a wish list that we are regularly updating on our website, and we share it on our social media channels and our newsletter. And that's when the magic happens, because someone the other day came and asked for an electric screwdriver. We didn't have one, and then we put a call out, and literally on the same day someone said, "Oh, I have one. It's very good working condition." And it just happens to be the case for the vast majority of our things. And also to inspire people to engage in social change. And that's something that we are very keen to make clear, that, whilst we hope people are using the ShareShed so we can continue the project, more than that, we want people to share more and really rethink how they consume, basically, and our relationship with consumerism and our relationship with stuff. So, once people get because everyone thinks like, oh, this is a great idea, but I don't need anything, until the day you do find yourself wanting something. Maybe that you're going camping or you're having a birthday party for your children, and you just want a little touch. Like we have a chocolate fountain, that is £2 and to borrow it. And, there's, even if you have the resources, which obviously there are a lot of people haven't even got the resources to pay. So that's a great contribution that they're able to access stuff they otherwise couldn't afford. And there's also these people that are just kind of becoming more aware of our climate crisis and our responsibilities, basically, in our role in make things differently. So after 2.5 years of running the ShareShed, we found that a lot of people were coming from the surrounding communities to use our services. And we also got supported initially by the National Lottery Fund. And because of that, we were invited to apply for something called People's Project, which is a 50,000 pot of money. And we came up with this idea of, at the time, really crazy idea, it felt to us, to have a mobile version of the project. So we could go to these towns ourselves instead of various people coming to us. And thankfully, we did get the grant in 2019. And finally, this July, after, being delayed because of the lockdown, we were able to launch this beautiful version, which I'm very proud of the project, and which happens to be the first one in the world, in the sense that there are many library of things, thankfully, emerging all over, including like musical instruments, like Harry said, or tools, especially, or toys, slings for babies, and yet no one has yet kind of done such a thing as having a vehicle with this stuff. And that was a major venture for us, because there were so many unknowns, and from even if our system, that the software we used to kind of help us add to the admin side of it, we didn't know if it would cope with the various locations, and obviously the van, how we would, organize it so it could fit all the stuff we have. So anyway, after quite a lot of work, we are very fortunate to have come up with something that's working. It's been working really well. And since July, when we launched it, our income more than doubled. And, for us, it's very rewarding to see so many more people using our services and making things more sustainable. Obviously, our costs are now different, and we're still at very early days in learning about it. This is a second-hand van that we bought. It was rotten, hence why we had to demolish the whole of its body. And in the end, it was one of those things at the time it was a major blow, and now it felt like such a gift, because we had this opportunity to create something very beautiful made of timber that really translates what Mumbai ShareShed looks like. So it's one of those things that is still very a learning process for us. Here just a few more photos of inside, so you can have a bit of more of an idea of how it looks like, how things are stored. And we also installed a solar panel, so we have a charger and a power source inside, so we can test the electric electrical items. So we went from being Totnes, as I said, 8,500 people, to then expanding to South Brent, Buckfastleigh, and Ashburton. So we have a weekly route, hence why our loans work on a weekly basis. And we go to these towns, and in Buckfastleigh, we have 2 different stops because it's a very hilly town. And before we launched it, we did some community consultations and had public meetings and all that. And that's a very important step to really check in with the community you're going to serve. If you did something they actually feel like they will benefit from, because sometimes we might think it's a great idea, but if the community is not on board, it tends to not work. So, and equally, we can get very valid information, very, very helpful information. Like when we did that consultation with Buckfastleigh, people said, look, it's so hilly here that I live in that side of town and I want to borrow a lawnmower, I can't carry it, because I haven't got a car. So it'd be really helpful to if you could park into the 2 sides of town. And this is what we've been doing. And still, as I said, still very early days. We are learning ongoingly. And yet, overall, it's been very positive. I want to share a few examples of our members. Susanna here borrowed a pressure washer, which is also a very popular item. And she was so pleased, like she's cleaning her patio. She said, I'll never have bought such a thing. One is it's very expensive, usually about 150 pounds. And then it's very bulky. And she was very happy that she could get her patio sorted, which she might want to do once a year, perhaps. And that pressure washer is, I think, £8 a week to borrow. So as you can see, it makes a lot of sense and it's very helpful. Here, it's a very sweet story with Mark, this guy who was desperate. He literally had a flight to catch in that evening, and he came to us realizing his suitcase didn't meet the requirements of the airline, those very tight restrictions, I guess, some airlines had about the size of the suitcase, and we just had the one that he needed, and he was so happy about it. And he sent us this photo. Just like, really, thanks so much. It's been really helpful. So it's also for us a very rewarding experience to really, see the impact and the benefits that what we are providing is having. Just to give you an idea, at the moment since we opened, we've had over 900 members. We're approaching 1,000, which is really exciting. We currently have over 350 items available for people to borrow. We now have over 1,600 loans. It's a bit out of date. And we estimate that throughout time, since we opened, people, assuming that people would have otherwise bought the items they borrowed from us, we estimate that our members have saved over £50,000, which is a lot of money, and a lot of resources too. We also very much rely on our wonderful team of volunteers, and which at the moment are over 20 people helping out. And as I mentioned, we are at the moment working 4 towns, hoping to expand it in the future. Out of curiosity, here is just the 10 most popular items that we have. Granted, there is kind of seasonality to it. In the summer, our gardening equipment and our camping gear just go out like all the time. We have 6 tents, and they get booked up, very quickly. And now in the autumn, hedge trimmers and stuff. So it's just something that it's important to learn too. A few more examples here. This lovely family who are visiting someone. They're over from Japan. They're here for just over a week. They're going camping, decided to go camping, and they came to us and bought everything, and they were so happy because, I don't know if that's the case, but my sense is that perhaps they wouldn't be able to go camping otherwise, because, if they don't know people in the area, and it wouldn't make sense to spend all the money to buy, tents, camping chair, camping stove, sleeping bags for a trip, and they wouldn't have brought that all the way from Japan. And they had an amazing time when they came to us to return things. They were so grateful, and that was, really lovely. This other person, Phil, he borrowed the lawnmower, and just in his arms he's carrying the draining rods. So I just wanted to show also the variety of the items, including a unicycle here, which Andy, who is the former mayor of Belfastly, one of the towns.
Mirella, I don't like to interrupt.
Yeah.
Because everybody's really enjoying it, but just a couple of minutes warning, if that's okay, just to try and keep us on track. Lovely photos, thanks. And it's super interesting.
Cool, thanks. And I just wanted to also mention that along with the ShareShed, we are also trying to run events to really reinforce the whole mentality of doing things differently around consumerism, and that includes sharing, repairing, making, and swapping. So we held this event in 2018 called the Share Fest here in Totnes, a whole day full of workshops, SkillShares, and we had Christmas jumper swap. And it was incredible. We had over 800 people, and it just, really highlights how kind of the demand, and the interest is present very much. So we also joined the Big Fix national campaign, and I'm sure believe CAG Devon was involved with. And just to give you an idea that just in Totnes, we were here with this event was a repair event, and from 10 to 1 in a day that was like, the weather was absolutely wild, like really crazy. And we were like, gosh, no one will turn up. And we had 23 volunteers, lined up to help repair things. And a lot of people turned up despite the weather. And 92 things got looked at over those 3 hours, of which 76 got repaired. So it just goes to show that if you have the opportunity to take things to be repaired and the skillful people to do so, and it's just amazing, how much resource and money can be saved. And it's also a very rewarding experience. And yeah, a few things were repairable, but they needed some spare parts, and only 7 things of the 92 couldn't be repaired. This is Rob Greenfield, that amazing guy I was telling you about, who made the video. And we are very fortunate because we're going to host a ShareFest this year again. And obviously we we are postponing it. Instead, we are hosting this event on the 24th of November. So it's a free online event. I just would like to take this opportunity to invite you all. I think it's going to be very inspiring. And lastly but not least is that we've just been selected as one of the community causes from the co-op. So if you ever purchase your grocery, whatever, at co-op, and you could take them a minute to go to their website, and if you're a member, it's at £1 to become a member, and you get discounts too. And you could choose the ShareShed as your cause. That would mean a lot to us, because 2% of every single purchase then gets donated to us. Thank you very much. Well, I can't hear you, Lou. I can.
Sorry, the classic muted trick. It would be a shame not to do that on the call. But thank you, Mirella. That was really, really engaging, and lots of questions. We are slightly over time, so rather than tackle those questions now, we're probably going to push on. Pick some of them in the Q&A, and it may be that, Mirella, we need to set up a separate session to tackle some of those questions, but there's also the chance to talk through those in the breakout room later. But I particularly like just the whole ethos of rethinking our relationships with stuff, and the fact that it's quite a classic marketing thing, that you don't really need a drill, we need the whole, and getting people to think about their relationship with things that they don't necessarily need cluttering up their house. So thank you very much, Mirella.